Good morning everybody, welcome to Hedgerow Stitching. Today is Thursday the 29th of January 2026. My name's Rebecca and here on this channel I share my stitching journey. This encompasses cross stitch, sewing, quilting and some knitting. Welcome along and I hope you enjoy what you see today. First off, I will start with what I've been stitching. I have a small little marking sampler that I made a little while ago, and a couple of you in the last comments sent a message saying that you had not cross-stitched before and what would be a simple chart to start with. Obviously, there's plenty of charts out there for beginner cross-stitchers, but I thought I'd like to share with you two that I have in my collection and that are available as downloadable PDFs on my web shop. But I thought you might like to have a look at them and see if they would be suitable for you. So they're both very simple marking samplers. They are under a stitch count of 100 by 90. So very doable as a first project. And the first one is by a little 10-year-old girl called Fanny Lowe. And this is her little chart. This is not the original. I will get the original out in just a second. But this chart is a couple of lines, three lines of cross stitch alphabets, and then her name and her age, and she stitched this in 1891. And then it's got two little vases and a flower vase and the crown in the middle here. Very simple. I just laced this to the back of a bit of mat board, and you can present it in a photograph frame or just as a standalone piece. Now this chart, let me just check. This chart was stitched with 3 colours. Now you can use DMC, which is stranded cotton that people use, or you can use the silk conversion or any thread. So the colour DMC, the pink, if you wanted to do that in DMC, is 962. The pale blue is 598 and the red is 816. So they're the DMC colours. If you wanted to stitch it in the silk, which is what I stitched it in, it's a Vera Soie d'Alger, and the pink is 4622, the red is 945, and the blue is 5384. Now, Fanny Lowe was a blacksmith's daughter, and she lived in the time of the Victorian age. So Queen Victoria had been on the throne for about 54 years, so a long time. There were, to put it in perspective for you, people who don't study history, Queen Victoria was on the throne till about 1901, I think. And at the time, in 1891, when Fanny stitched her sampler, there was an Elementary Education Act which enabled all schooling to be free to all children in the UK. And also, it's the same time that Thomas Hardy published his book, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. And if you've watched that film or you've read the book, you can understand the social situation of people in the UK at that time. Let me get Fanny's details for you. So this is Fanny's original sampler, and I'll hold it up on my... So Fanny may have stitched this at school, or she may have done it at home. Obviously, she may have done it in the first year that schooling was free to children. It's stitched on Penelope canvas, which is this quite rough, thick canvas, and Fanny stitched hers in wool, which was common in those days to use wool. Let me tell you a little bit about Fanny, and you can see the difference in the sizes. This is stitched on 40 count, and this is, I think, 20 is it 20 count? I'm not quite sure, 20 count. So difference in the sizes. You could make this smaller still by stitching it on a much higher count, 46 or 56 count. I've been stitching a second piece, and this is how far I've got on my second piece. And what I'm going to do with this piece is finish it slightly differently. I'm going to hem stitch round the outside and down the sides, and use it as a little marking sampler. Just put it out somewhere in the house as a pretty little sampler. So that's one example of a sampler that you can stitch if you are a very beginner. Another sampler that I have, which is beginner friendly, is this little marking sampler, and this was stitched in 1845 and by a 7-year-old called Anne Rowlinson. This is a little bit frayed now at the edges here, where I finished it very badly. But let me tell you a little bit about Anne Rowlinson. So we don't really know much about Anne, but she was born in 1838 in Leicestershire. So her little sampler is 100 by 93, and it uses two colours, so DMC 924 or DMC 520. So I think I stitched mine with General Art cotton thread using colours 7004 and 8012. So that is another little marking sampler that you can use. I just put a little bit of linen on the back, and that sits up on my shelf here. So two marking samplers that you can stitch if you're new to cross stitch. Now I'm going to show you some quilting that I've been doing. I was having a tidy up the other day, and I came across two charm packs that I hadn't used, and I wondered what I could do with them. So what I did was make a little zipper pouch, and this is very, very easy to make. I think I used 2, 4, 6, 8, I used 40 little squares, and what I did, I laid them out on the table in the sort of arrangement that I liked. I used the pale ones for the front and the darker ones for the back, or any direction. And then I got some stabilizer and glued just in a dab in the center, and glued them down to the stabilizer. And then I turned the stabilizer inside out, so right sides together, and I stitched all the way down vertically, and then I turned around and stitched all the way across horizontally. Then I cut the seams, ironed it flat, and put a lining in. And I found this grey zip which went really well with the colours. And now I use it for storing my markers, so my square designs, and I think I've got a seam guide. So I sewed up all the sides, turned it inside out, and you've got a lovely pouch, and you've used up some of your charm squares. It's really easy, simple to do. I didn't measure, I just popped the squares down and cut out the interfacing, cut out the lining so it matched the size, sewed it together, sort of straight lines, and it makes a lovely little pouch. So I did that the other day. Also, while I was having a tidy up, I picked up some of my old works in progress. Now this is a quilt that I have had going for a little while, and it's all stitched by hand, and I've been using these 1 1/4 paper pieced templates, and as I've been stitching them and taking out the templates, I have been replacing them so I can use them again. I've been making hexagon flower shapes of all different sorts. Now this is, I think it's called prairie grass fabric, and I've got these ones to sew together. And this is how far I've got. So what I've been doing is sewing them all together in this sort of arrangement. This is the one I was sewing on yesterday. So I've got quite a few more to sew on, and I'm using just I think this is Modus Snow as the background, as the path, and I've got to add a few more colours to make. This is going to be a single bed quilt, and hopefully I'll be able to get these done in the next week or so, and I can put some boarding in between, and I think I shall just do a plain background for the reverse. So I'll show you the other side. So these are all the papers, all cut out and sewn by hand and then sewn together by hand. So it's quite a lot of work, and you do get the odd paper that just comes adrift, which is what this one has done, but I've tried to sort of pop it back in because it's much easier to sew these together when you have the papers in rather than when you take them out. These ones have come out, and yesterday I was sewing this one on. I didn't get very far because it's quite cumbersome to have on your lap, as you can see, and try and sew them all together. But this is one I shall be working on quite a lot in the future, just to try and get this top finished. And I keep my hexagon flowers in this lovely project bag that was given to me by my friend Olivia B. If you are new to my channel, you may not know Olivia B. If you pop in olivia.b on YouTube, she is a lovely girl who does sewing, quilting and cross stitch. I'm not sure if you do knitting, Olivia, but follow along with her, and she has some lovely things to look at. So in this bag I do have my other hexagon pieces and some of the background fabric to make more hexagons. I use Aurifil threads to stitch the hexagons together, and this is let me see, this is the 50 weight Aurifil, and then I use the Bowen in between patchwork and quilting needle size 10. So these are just threads and needles that suit me. I think my advice would be to anyone wanting to know what needles to use is use all different sorts of ones until you find one that suits your needs or suits your hand, suits your sewing project, because there are hundreds of different sorts of needles out on the market, and one needle may suit me but it may not suit somebody else, and somebody else may recommend a needle and I might not like it. So choose the needle that you feel happy with working with in your hand, and that gives you the results that you're looking for. My next item is the strata pullover. I shall put a picture here of the pattern by Tiff Nealon. I knit this in a superwash wool. I can't exactly remember the name of the brand, and I used a navy, a pink and a green. It's knit up really nicely. The sleeves are a little bit shorter, but I don't mind about that because I tend to pull mine up to 3/4 length sleeve anyway. The only thing with this is I knit a size, the third size, and I should have knit the fourth size because it's a little bit snug under the armpits here. I'm not sure whether that's just my knitting or whether that's because of the sizing, but that's the only thing. It doesn't stop me from wearing it. I've been wearing it a lot, and it's got a little bit of pilling over the front here, but that's fine because you can just use a D pillar and get that back to looking okay. This is just a very casual sweater that I wear around the house and out occasionally, and I'm very happy with it. The next time, if I did it again, I wouldn't use superwash. I appreciate the values of superwash wool, that you can just throw it in the machine, but I hand wash all my garments that are wool, even if they're shop bought ones with instructions, because that's just how I do my that's just how I look after my wool items. The next item is my fossette top. I'll put a photograph here of the pattern. It's a double knit, very easy yoke, little bobbles here on the yoke here. You can have it as a cap sleeve or a short sleeve or a long sleeve. I used a block pink and a block cafe au lait colour, and then I used this denim variegated colour, and these yarns were from Bird Street Yarn in Bristol. It's quite heavy as a double knit for when it's really warm, but it's a nice spring top. You can wear it over a dress or with shorts or jeans, and it fits really nicely, and it's just a pretty little throw on summer vest. My last finished item is a Fair Isle hat, and this is the finished item. I'll put a photograph in here of the pattern, and that's the top of the hat. I really like this colour work. It actually went quite quickly once you get into the pattern. I chose my own yarn colours, and this is what it looks like on. It's got a thick twisted over double rim, and let's pop it on. I'm just trying to find if there's a back or not to it. I don't think there is. It's knit in the round. This is what it looks like on. Really happy with how it turned out. It's snug over the ears, so it keeps the wind out, and it has this lovely pattern on the top. A little bit snug, but I think it will stretch with time and with use, and I just really love it. I would make another one, and perhaps I'd make a scarf to go with it, but that's what it looks like on. Really happy with this one. Absolutely love Fair Isle work and really like to do more. On that note, I'll put a photograph in of my next project that I'd like to start, which is here. And I had already had the wool in my stash because this was going to be a blanket, but I never got round to making it. So these are the colours that I will be using. I think those are both the same, so let's get rid of that one. Oh yeah, the paler grey. So I think it is 5 colours, and if you can imagine these colours as a Fair Isle vest, this is what I will be showing you in a few weeks or so. I am actually knitting a sweater at the moment and doing some surprise knitting, so I can't show those on here at the moment, but these are my next wools, and these are Jameson Smith jumper weight. So if you can see these colours in a Fair Isle vest, a little bit hard to imagine if you're not a knitter, but that's my next project. That's all I've got to share with you this video, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing and sharing my video. It helps to get my video out to more people, and I really do appreciate you all joining me today, and thank you very much for your time. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye.